Hey, John. Good to see you again.
Good. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Going well. Today, we're going to be talking about the three core tenets of our business, which you came up with and you kind of noticed as we were doing ERP implementations the new way with AI assistance and our new cohesive AI. Just want to know what brought it about, where we thought about, time, tenacity, and team. Like a lot of this is kind of maybe old stuff, but it's also new in our world. So
Yeah, I think time is something that has remained on the kind of top of the ERP implementation checklist since the 70s, and that your success in your ERP implementation directly ties to the amount of time that you invest in that implementation, the amount of people that you have involved, the number of stakeholders, and the number of time you've allotted them to focus on the act of configuring and implementing your ERP. And that's really never changed. And that's something, we make as our first tenet, just to kind of reinforce that nothing's a magic bullet. There is no magic solution that is going to implement itself, and that it really takes the time by the business invested to get the results that we want. And that tenet alone leads into the other kind of two tenets is team. You need more than one person acting in that regard. And several people that have the time committed to the software implementation.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some successes with definitely the team. When we've seen like the ebb and flow, when we've seen the team rally and get together of the businesses that we're working with, it just in 2 days they can clear out months worth of work that kind of built up. Whereas we've also seen it where there's one operation manager, he's just gung ho, or she, and they can just run on their own. But typically we're finding the team works best.
Yeah, and I think it goes, an operations manager with plenty of time committed can get this up and running, but it's going to be just their interpretation of the business, their interpretation of the data. It's funny how many shops we've been into where, we kind of challenge the conventional wisdom and say, hey, we think you probably have an ERP. It's just the algorithms live in the people's heads and the spreadsheets are on their desktop. And it can be a difficult task for one person to piece all of those individual systems together. And it's kind of like the team that's coming to this guy's got a car door and this guy's got a hood and this guy's got a tire, and the whole team's going to piece together this car and make it drive for the business. So
love it, John. Yeah, the manufacturer we work with, they're all unique. They all have their custom processes. So getting that knowledge out of their head or from the spreadsheets into one cohesive system, which we're doing with AI. What's changed about it since you've been doing this for decades? What are you seeing that's different working with AI assistants versus maybe traditional consultancies where they're configuring modules or building from scratch these development features?
Well, I think I can speak from my own experience and what's changed in my life. And I remember at the end of a long day in 2016, and we had been at that time I was implementing election software with governments and doing big kind of projects that would implement that. And I don't think there was a day I ever came home and said, wow, we had a lot of fun today implementing, or that client was really pleased with what we did today. It always seemed like in that business of big enterprise software implementations that nobody was having fun. There was a largely an adversarial relationship. It seemed like the consultants were fighting the business, and that's not what they were hired for. So I think in contrast to what we're doing now with AI, I've heard the word fun. I've heard an administrator say, hey, this is pretty engaging once you get into it, and things like that. So I think the biggest difference to me is that this is a business that I want to do. It's very fun, it's fulfilling, and we're actually seeing quick returns on investment. So that's been a big difference in experience for sure.
So we've talked about the time, and that leads into the tenacity and team. So what about the tenacity that you're seeing in our boot camps? People from all ranges, from like the maybe slow adopters to like the enthusiastic go-getters who build ERP systems in like 8 weeks, John? Like
yeah, I dare say that the quickest, fastest builders that we have, and this kind of the source of the tenacity is usually a big failure, or a large, the ERP has been, or the system has been a large point of contention. It's been a large barrier for the business. So that tenacity comes from, hey, we tried SAP and it didn't work. we tried another ERP and it didn't work. Or, we hired some developers to build our own custom system and it didn't work. We've done XYZ and it didn't work. And then we see when we can untether them from the things that they didn't make them work, the traditional software development, the pricey consultants, the constantly having to explain the nuances of your business, when we can just replace that with AI, something that listens and something that reasons and something that understands you, we're seeing just a total, we can capture that tenacity and actually turn it into trajectory, and we can turn it into business results, because that pain is now turned into dopamine because we're solving problems, and then the business just wants to go and go and go.
It's so real time too. Like the business has their business process in their head, they communicate it to the AI assistant, and our system wraps it up and immediately get feedback of their process. So wait, that's not what I meant. But it's immediate versus what we've seen with third-party consultants. It's like, let's go away for a week, we'll come back with something for you. Here it is. And then it's, no, that's not what I meant from the business. And that's just a slow, painful grind, we feel, versus like, oh, I see what I did wrong. Here's how I can correct my business process to adapt. And this is what I actually meant. And now it starts to work. I think that's where we're seeing people saying it's engaging, it's fun, and it's addicting. Like wild stuff for enterprise software.
There's no more latency in the conscious stream of thought of innovation to actually enacting on the assistant being able to execute on the innovation you just thought of, and it really gets those feedback loops, as you said. There's just nothing stopping the kind of. If you've played with Chat GPT, if you can put a spreadsheet together, then there's no reason you can't be innovating with AI, as long as you have that kind of tenacity. If you've had the business problem that's existed, maybe it's something that's keeping you up at night, it's certainly worth exploring.
And it's really neat to see that we can tackle all areas like inventory, production, scheduling, configuration, price, quote. It's like every area can just be brought down to basically a work instruction and data, and piecing it together with the customer in mind.
In hindsight, we have to look at how we, as the software vendors, have how it's changed our business. We traditionally thought more software, more code, more people. When our product has proven less software, less code, less people, and there's more results for the users. So that's pretty reflective for us to look at in the future of our business as it applies to helping manufacturers get more value out of their businesses.
Yeah, we've been doing this for years with large Fortune 500 companies down to small, medium-sized shops, and it's across the board. Everybody has these problems. No one's solved it, but thankfully AI's come along, and folks like us are wrapping this up and making sure that this software solution is easy to use, and our customers are just having a blast, and so are we. So, John, it's been fun. We're just getting started too. Like it's
absolutely. It's the time thing, it's never going to go away. In order to innovate, in order to change your business, to transform, you need to commit time. You want to have a team of stakeholders that are also excited about that transformation, and that you're going to give the time, and you're going to give that executive support to. But man, the tenacity is what's going to get you over the finish line. The desire to innovate, the pain from past maybe failures or hurdles or things that you thought, what's the old saying? We don't do things because they're easy. We do things because we thought they looked easy, or something like that. So,
we went at this with AI in our mind, and like, this is going to work. But the first 4 months was us just trial and error with customers, and it has been awesome. The tenacity part, John, what's changed with I guess the tenacity is always going to be there. You want change. A lot of folks are fearful because they've been burned so many times. We've been in those situations where the software isn't quite working for them in our legacy stuff, not in the new stuff, where it's like, why isn't this working? And it just it's so painful to go through that. So I can imagine why folks are fearful of trying AI. It's like, oh no, not another tool. What are you seeing in our cases where the tenacity is paying off?
The only difference is that we can show a different path really fast. And that's what AI unlocks for folks who've had that pain or have that tenacity, but they only see a terribly paved road of pain in front of them. And whether that's the ERP implementation route or that's the traditional custom software route, it's not a comfortable, fun, desirable path to follow for the enterprise leader, the executive. And now the reason that's changed, what's changed is your question, is that we can show them a third path, a path that might be fun. Hey, it might be. It's just it'll be something that they're in control of. I guess that's another difference. In those two paths, our customer was a passenger on the ride, whether it was custom software or whether it was an ERP. But in this third path, they get to drive. And that's something that in no kind of digital transformation space in enterprise has been available before. And I think that's the real opportunity that Cohesive, products like Cohesive and just AI in general offer the manufacturer of today, or the enterprise.
Sean, well said. Again, time, tenacity, and team. When you have those three things, we align those in our 5 hour, 10 hours of boot camp, and the company is off and running. We're just still early on. We're still in our kind of beta, but boot camps are a blast, and working alongside you, John, has been great. So
yeah, it's been a lot of fun, David. Thanks for getting us to where we need to be.
Awesome. Well, thanks, John. We'll catch up later. Hopefully,
Awesome.
have more of these calls. Cheers.
You bet.